All right, you guys, here we are back again. I had already done the shuffle and pull, and I posted that last night. I should probably put the link to that in the description box of this video. And then I'll post the video to that on that video. So that way it's interchangeable ways to get there. Now, remember when I first started, I was like, oh my gosh, I kept thinking about that pile at the end of that reading, and I was like, what is that about? And so it's probably why we have all those cards that repeated at the top. Because it's like, hello, you just had that reading, and this is what we just talked about, and so that's what it is that's smelling that way. So we have the ring, some kind of offer or commitment, or could be a ring of people. Balance and justice with the feather, which is spiritual messengers, birds of flight, and I had mentioned before, and I probably need to write that down, just being light of heart, not taking things super seriously. Rolling stone can be a person who behaves in that way. Papa was a rolling stone, or it can be a situation that kind of has just rolled out of control. So maybe someone's spiritual gifts have run out of control, and they're just like, they don't have a hand on it like they thought they did. And one of our community members had mentioned that perhaps it was witchcraft. And yes, indeed, it can be witchcraft, because that does bring me back to a point. That's something that happened for me. Was I was with a coworker, and she had mentioned that she does participate and she does do that. And that's part of the reason why that was part of the reasons why I had to leave that environment, because I was finding signs of witchcraft being done. And anyway, back to what I originally was saying. She said that she had done witchcraft, and I came back a couple days later after I had thought about it, like, wow, that's really a real thing. I didn't know that that was something that people really did. Like, I thought it was just movie based, or let's just, I was naive. Yes, even at this age, I was very naive about it. And I told her, I was like, well, you need to be careful participating in things like that, because, you may end up with something you're not really wanting, or it can get out of hand. You just don't want to mess with that stuff, because, you know. And she said, oh, don't worry, my uncle, who's a priest, helps me with it. And I'm like, wow, alrighty then. There's just another layer to that part of the web that I was not even I didn't know that kind of, as I said, I didn't know that happened, and I really didn't know that a priest would get involved in that, but that's what she said. And as I briefly just mentioned, I did see there were like petals of some kind of plant in one of the shopping baskets, and the plant was nowhere around our vicinity. It was like that plant, the petals, was very specific looking, and we didn't have that around our parking lot of where the retail business was. So you know how Google has that little picture identifying thing, and it ended up being some kind of plant that deals with a natural supplement that can be beneficial for hearts. Helps regulate the heart. And don't you know, weird enough, it could have just been timing, I'm not saying, but I ended up having reasons to have to go visit a heart doctor and a vascular surgeon in order to decipher that, you know, I'm indeed fine. But there were things happening, like my heart would race until like I would just be sitting there and all of a sudden it would race to be 104 beats per minute. My heart jumping out of my chest to the point where it felt like there was just not enough room in my chest for it. Or it felt like there was something looping around in my heart that couldn't get out of the valve and it was just in there stuck. Like my heart, it was not anxiety. It came out of the blue. It was after I went for the scan in order to look for a heart issue in so the whole situation, that was months of just nightmare. So let's just go on with the reading, because maybe that was TMI and maybe you're not interested, but you could always move ahead in the video if you'd like, which is fine. I don't care, right? I'm having a lot of lightness of heart because that's just the way that I roll. And that's funny how it's a lightness of heart because of the heart story. Oh, and on another note, I did bring it up to our assistant manager, or who was, yeah, our assistant manager. And I was like, don't those flowers look so weird in that cart like that? I didn't even explain anything to her. I said, look how weird this is. And she looked at it and she shook her head yes. And she goes, yeah, that is weird. And it's like, you know how people can respond to things in a way and you're kind of like, well, that's just kind of a weird way to respond to it. And of course, I always ask myself, are you thinking too much into it? But these are all just fragments and pieces of things that have happened. And I'm just like, it's just so bizarre. So bizarre. Okay, so on that note, that person's spiritual or magical or witchcraft could have gotten out of hand with this rolling stone, right? And her pose was to go after this silver spoon that belonged to this naturally bright, naturally productive, naturally fertile person, right? Now, if I'm going to put this in terms of myself and the story that I just said, I love working, I love being of service, and I love being able to, you know, do my best. So I always had things restocked. I always had things organized. I always had a chart of who had said what to training wise. Our credit cards were up. Not the nation, but the district. Our credit cards were, we were first in the district with our credit card sales. So just saying, even though there was a lot of chaos and whatnot, because there's another part to that. Even though there was all that chaos going on and people were coming in and screaming at me because of the rules of the store, I was still a high producer. I loved my job. I loved being a mentor. I loved training. I loved, as I said, being of service. It was an awesome job. Didn't pay well, but it was an awesome job. And I was in the market to getting a raise and a position promotion, which could be that silver spoon, because there was someone else, the one that does the witchcraft, who wanted that position. And folks, it was $1 raise she was going after, $1. If that's what she was doing, I can't say for sure because I wasn't in the room when things were being done, right? But you know, you sense, again, how the environment, you get that idea that the environment is just a little bit different than the day before, or, excuse me, I guess, not talking. So with that being said, with the environment, we've got the mermaid. So this mermaid was in her element. And if I'm going to reference it to my story, I was in my element at that job. Our customers would come in and say, hey, where is she? I haven't seen her. And I've heard from other people that since I've been gone, the vibe in there is just totally different. And they shop at a different location. Not because I said anything to them, just because I wasn't there, mind you. This person was or is magnetic. She attracted great things for the company. She nourished the company. The image of the company was important to her. She felt that sorry, my mind just went to the little fireplace and just she felt that she represented the company, and she feels that everyone that works for a company should represent the company in that way, and being transparent with how she felt, who she was, how she treated people. She was always kind to people, considering the candy. Super sweet, kind, untainted, water nourishing, right? Water is pure. Our bodies are made of, I think, 97% water. And they wanted to cage her heart. They wanted to keep her small, isolated, and in her place. They didn't want her heart to love the way that it was made to love. And they had no intention on letting her go. They wanted her trapped. Possibly even caged. She was sweet. She went with the flow of things. She allowed her emotions to flow and be naturally who she was or is. But they outcasted her like the blah, blah, black sheep. And they had this bright idea. Let's take the mermaid in all her glory in her natural environment. Perhaps she's too big for that environment. Perhaps she appears to be larger than life itself in that environment. And let's take her, and as I said, let's isolate her. Let's cramp the environment for her. So that won't be the standard of measure for everyone else. She's making us look bad. Or every time they lock eyes with her, they feel bad because they know that's not who they are. Measured, pros and cons, planned. How long? A standard. To have standards. Measure against. To compare. To secure, to keep safe, blocking a theft, commitment, to keep in place. They wanted to keep her in her place. Her standards were too high with these balloons here. To keep from theft, perhaps they had a plan, or perhaps they were trying to steal something. Maybe they were trying to lock down the silver spoon. That this producer was looking at. Maybe it was something that stemmed from the sweetness that she showed to others, especially those who would be considered outcasts or different. The black sheep is usually taken on as the scapegoat in their environment. They're picked on, they're accused of things, they're treated poorly. They're kept out of the barn, isolated, locked away. So they had this plan, perhaps, that they were going to blame her for everything that they were doing. It was a ring operation. That they kept doing over and over and over and over again. Nine is a number of completion. It can be the ninth decade, meaning someone is in their 90s. Perhaps the Rolling Stone was in their 90s. Could be a life path number 9. As I said, it could be a completion of a cycle. Let go. During the theft, perhaps they wanted people to have to let go of their finances. The silver spoon. Could be a ruler as far as a head of a company or a supervisor. They wanted this person to be let go. In my case, personally, I wanted to be able to be let go to another location. I was not feeling safe in that environment for multiple reasons. And my supervisor said, "No, I'm not letting you go." Well, there's a pickle. Okay, back to the story on the table. So let's let go. Let's let go of our problems. Maybe they thought this isolation situation was on lockdown and they were done They were done with this whole scenario. They thought they had won the scenario. And they're like, okay, well, we can let go of it now. Let's go ahead and celebrate. Let's take flight. She's in this hamster wheel. She has no idea what's been going on. And she's completely tuned out. Has no idea about the luck that she's been given. Or we're going to shade, cover, and dim how lucky she really is. And suddenly, she's having nightmares. Or suddenly, they're having nightmares. With that said, any of the participants in the stories can be the person as far as the collective, or it could be the person that they're dealing with. On another note, this could be a person around you who's dealing with this. Sometimes when readings are being read, it's reading for the energy around the collective or the watcher or the person who's watching the videos or having the reading done. So it might not be you personally, it might be just happening around you. I've seen that play out several times with other readers. It's like, oh, well, that's not happening to me, but it's happening to someone I know. All right, so now we've got the cocoon. That was the next card out, and then we have the candle. I don't want to lift the cocoon only because I had was looking for cards last night and I had to go through those. So we've got the candle here. Let me just take them out. I guess period's not such a bad word. And then when I put the candle in, it was on top of thoughts. So we've got isolation again, right? But this is transformative. So while she was in this isolation, you can call it a leave of absence. But as she was made to look small or be small, maybe the word humble comes to mind. She was actually in a space of transformation, sparking a light of thoughts, perhaps putting pieces together, storylines. I'm the type of person where something can happen and it's like, have you ever been in the situation where you're having a discussion with someone and they're like really coming at you and you're just like, wow, like a deer in the headlights. And then you think about the things that you could have or should have said after the fact. That's what this sparking the thoughts. Like you think about after the fact, you're transforming that thought. But now that I'm saying those words, what is the word when you it's not manifest, transmute. Transmuting that magic into thoughts or witchcraft. I guess call it what it is, right? And you're thinking about what in the world had happened. But they were transmuted. And as our community member had posted, witchcraft doesn't work on the chosen people. And my response to that, what was my response to that? That is so weird when your mind just kind of clicks out. My response to all things, regardless of what it is that you're going through, and I did mention the other day, don't make permanent decisions based on temporary emotions or feelings. Always stay in the lightness of heart. I was watching a video, I think it was last night, and it was saying that people are only doing what it is that they were meant to do. So even in the case where there's witchcraft happening, they could have some kind of God complex where they think that they can control another person's life to be able to get whatever it is that they want to be able to have. And if someone has a God complex, is that really about you? That's their issue, right? And if they're going to have a God complex, they're pretty much going to have to face God with that, or the Most High, or whatever you want to call it, the universe. They have to face the universe with that. There is never a situation where there's no consequence. And in my situation, unbeknownst to me, it was even happening. Quoted, he said, she said. I didn't even know that was happening. Put that in quotes. Until you get the feelings or the intuition, like there's something a little bit off here. So when someone like that, whether it's witchcraft or whether it's just a negative attitude or if it's just like an unhealed person, when somebody is like that, they're not fighting with you. They're not going to war with you. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that word. I apologize. They're actually fighting with God, and they're fighting with themselves. And that's not about you. It's about their path. It's about their choices. They're so caught up in their own emotion of things, or their lack, rather, that they're just not thinking, folks. Their emotions have completely taken over. And that's really sad. They could be trying to recycle your words. They're recycling the words of this black sheep. No matter how much they look down on this person, there's still something to this person. And they're green with envy about it. So maybe they recycle the things that she says and does. So they can appear to be that way. We've got the waterfall. I don't know how much you can see the cards. Passport travel. Yeah, my boss at work, Hammer, she kept looking at me up and down saying, yeah, we really need to get her to travel, because our customers would ask, oh, have you ever, been anywhere travel? I'm like, no, I've never really. Other than a few states, I've only been to in California. Grace. She'd look at me and be like, oh, yeah, we really need to get her traveling. But mind you, when I needed an extra day off, it wasn't allowed. And when I wanted to file for FMLA, I was told it would take me 6 months just to get it. I wanted to take care of my mom. She was passing of cancer. And they said, no, that's going to take you 6 months to even get that going. I'm like, well, that's weird. So there's that. So we've got the moon, we've got candy, and we've got map and frustration. We've got sail away. Mermaid. Idea. Or light bulb. That rolling stone. Hey, I got an idea. Let's send somebody in. She's probably frustrated by now, right? Let's make her frustrated. We're going to work on her grace. This Baba Black Sheep goes with the flow. Let's get her to change that. We're going to work on her grace. I don't know why today's reading is so probably because I was telling my own personal situations on the matter, and I think when you do that, it's really just hard to read for yourself. So when I bring these cards out, I'm just going to think about what is happening on the table, not talk about it, and give my mind a break for a minute. We've got our cards here. We've got the bottom of the deck, music. Next card would be bus. Okay. This is not about me, right? Okay. So we've got this illumination of this sweet situation, right? Boundaries for map. I don't know why I keep using boundaries, but there's so many things. Wherever you go, there you are. Climate, history, to plan a trip, long distance travel. Perhaps somebody had to go over long distances considering we have that sail away card. I don't see any money cards on the table right now. If you do, please point them out. But we do have the map and we do have the passport. So somebody probably had to go a long distance in order to work on something. Association with, representation, freedom to move about, point A to point B, boundaries, landmass, worldwide, can't run from self. So perhaps these people had a representation or a representative go and travel from one place to another, whether it is a state, but considering they have a passport out here, then maybe they had to go to another country in order to gain this sweetness, the sweet, sweet, sweetness. Sweet love, sweetheart, hard, sugar, hugs and kisses, gift. But they were frustrated in the process of doing it because it wasn't really as easy as they thought it would be. And as this mermaid had mentioned, she posed the thought or gave the idea that something may get out of hand. And now they are the ones who are going to get locked up. See how she's looking at that? All over a silver spoon. So they're going to take a pause. Slight pause between sentence separates a list, moves place of thousands, or marks the place of thousands. A minute interval or difference in pitch, and it's also on the underside of a butterfly's wing. They're realizing it's time to leave this situation, and perhaps they're going to come and visit and make an offer of some sort. Teacher, education, nutrition. There's a visitor that's been educated on the situation, that's been juggling how things appear and sound. What looks like a bell sounds like a bell and is shaped like a bell. A bell. It is what it is. Loud and clear. Taking a look at the reflection of this circus. Like, who's the ringleader here, folks? The confusion that was caused. Entertainment purposes only. The judgment. Taking a look. nutrition, vitamins, and essential oils. Broccoli, veggies, supplements, and vitamins. This person that they were trying to use as a scapegoat and say that she was maybe overly emotional, maybe she was too sensitive. They were really working hard on her character here. But she takes care of herself. She just kind of beats to her own drum here. She's the music and the environment. She's the one who's upbeat. She evokes emotions of others because she's a mirror of who they are. They aren't her. And she is definitely not them. Yet we're all human. We're all taking our ride. We're all getting educated in this life. We all are learning something. And I think that's the takeaway here, is that we all are learning something, regardless of what part of the story you're playing in. And we are all responsible for our own work. You can't cheat. You can get a tutor. But you can't cheat. That's a bad choice if you cheat. But we all do have the choice to make. We get to choose who we're going to be. This is the mind and this is the heart. A balanced decision will always incorporate both on equal terms. That's how you get through the tests of things. Let's get our word cards, okay? Top of the deck, we've got an upside down N. When I was going through my situation, I had a doctor suggest that I go on a leave of absence. It was clearly time to go, but I had no idea that, even though it felt like when I gave him my doctor's note, I told one of the coworkers or assistant managers, I was like, I don't know why it feels like I just gave my 2 weeks notice. I had no idea. So this visitor came in and is looking at all the facts and is trying to keep them all up in the air. Maybe the people were trying to keep all the facts in the air. make a game of it. Juggling the facts. Wanting it to look like a circus. Trying to balance the confusion. Taking a step back and looking at the world supplementally. The supplemental details. We've got witness. That came out kind of awkward. We've got the letter R. Could stand for a word or an initial or nickname. Ahead of time is upside down. Man is upside down. So it's not ahead of time, but it's probably in the nick of time. We can look at man, the opposite of man being a woman, which was what I first thought. But then I also thought of the opposite of man is spiritual. Oh, that could be like R, like A-R-E, as in the nick of time, are spiritual. Celebrate. Maybe new friendship? I don't know. Celebrating friendship that is almost determined. Someone's witnessing spiritual law just in the nick of time. Witnessing this friendship, the determined and the unwavering and the loyal friendship that this person has with spirit, or the spirit with this person. Someone is looking at that. And perhaps maybe this is why all this happened. Maybe all of this stuff was happening in order for one person to witness the miracle of what happened spiritually. With faith on the bottom of the deck. And we've got all of these cards on the floor. We've got project on top of K. Could have to do with something about K. We've got reserved concern that came in like that. We've got ask why on top of 6. That's interesting. And we've got this big old group of cards with tell me upside down, so please don't tell me. Controlling, karmic. Perhaps there's 4 of them. Manifest upside down, quirky, misunderstood, which is understood. Manifest quirky understanding, this Cancer. Maybe there is no Cancer. Maybe it has to deal with someone other than a Cancer. Maybe a Cancer has been turned on their head. Not walking away. X marks the spot. It's not deep. It's pretty surface. Considering we've got deep upside down and underwater upside down. It's not underwater. It's right here at the surface. It's right here being shown. X marks the spot. Everybody knows what's happening. Everybody knows what's going on. There you have it. Should we do our black cards? Time to celebrate. Get out there and dance. Keep your health. Good. Get educated on nutrition, vitamins, and vitamins and essential oils. There are some essential oils that are not good for pregnant people. They're not good for dogs or cats. They're all different. They're not good for certain age groups. If you are going to get into this, make sure that you get educated on that. You don't want to harm yourself by trying to help yourself, right? We've got music out here again. We've got circus out here again, but it's upside down this time, and that's on top of change. So the whole circus environment is changing. That's good news, right? It's got smoke here on top of the rose. We've got stubborn. Pride is upside down. They obviously were trying to humble this person. Or maybe they were too prideful. Oh, look at that. Enchanting. Maybe they've been humbled by their enchanting smoke and mirrors attempts. We've got vixen. Perhaps this person was kind of, alluring. Little vixen. We've got time here. Only time will tell. What the heck is upside down? They're not confused about it. They know exactly what happened. They're not surprised about it. Rose, I just had the idea of, will you accept this rose? Under that was root upside down. So perhaps that was the ringleader when I asked earlier who was the ringleader. Someone who was a little alluring, and she used romance as the root of her methods. What's the word? Seduction. But you can be seducing and not be overly not over the top about it. It can just come across as like an offering of like a flower or something, right? Okay, I don't know why I'm reaching for more cards, but we'll just do that and be done with it. We've got tech. This came out the other day as far as a tech box. So maybe whatever they were doing tech-wise, I'm sorry you can't see that. Pass is upside down. They've been blocked as far as getting into any of the computer systems, and juggle is upside down now. They're not able to juggle the things that they've been doing. Everything's exposed, as we had said. It's all on the surface. And that's upside down. So perhaps a visitor will be coming and giving this information to you of things that you already know that have been going on, and it's going to just be time for healing and dancing and making music. With that being said, thanks for being here, and make it a great day.